Hello, good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. If you're not watching this live, welcome. My name is Jessica with Jessica Dawn Coaching, and this is the Friday Conversations where I hop on here and talk about the theme that I've been posting about all week long. And so this week it was all about disappointment. And I posted about disappointment because some questions came up when I was posting about anger, about the correlation between anger and disappointment. And I always really appreciate these questions. So keep bringing them to the group, keep posting them in the group or on the posts. I love it. It helps fuel the content that I provide. It helps me know what you want to hear more about. Disappointment was the big one this week. And what I've noticed in a lot of the work that I do with my clients is when it comes to doing deep inner work, and when we start talking about the inner child stuff and looking at the shadows, one of the first things that people say to me when going into the childhood stuff, and this is not a blanket statement, obviously a lot of people have had very poor childhoods, but even in people with deep trauma, when it relates to their parents, they'll excuse the parent before we dive in. They'll say, I had a really good childhood. And then we dive into all of the ways in which disappointment was pervasive. And so what I like to do is give people permission, right? We can see all the ways in which our parents have done the best that they can. Our parents are working with the tools that they had at the time, and maybe they were pretty shitty tools, right, at that time. And that does not in any way, shape, or form take away from the ways in which it impacted you at that early stage, right? You can still love your parents and appreciate everything that they've done and still have trauma that springs from all of that. And so one of the things that seems to have really clicked with people is when I talked about the addiction to disappointment and how we have trained ourselves to almost pre-disappoint, expect less in ways that we really shouldn't be expecting less, right? So, that trauma creates deep grooves in our neurological wiring and, kind of creates that disappointment center for not a technical term. And so the deeper that groove gets, the more accustomed we get to it. And so the further away, the more entrenched in that disappointment we are, the further away we get from knowing what our worth is and dreaming into what we deserve. And I don't really like using the word deserve because, that deserving presupposes that there is unworthiness. Whereas we're like, screw that. No, you're not unworthy at all. We are all completely worthy. But that disappointment feeds into this hole of feeling unworthy. And so if we put icing on that unworthiness with the layer of disappointment and we start to just kind of create, it's like, this is my expectation. I have low expectations already. Then that sting from disappointment lessens. But it doesn't really. It just goes deeper and deeper into the experience. So I'm curious, if you want to pop into the comments below, how that's showing up for you. Are you setting out with the expectation of already being let down when you start creating new experiences or new projects in your life? Does that happen for you? Do you fully jump into creating what you want to create, or are you holding back? Are you putting in at 98% but holding back that 2% because you want to couch yourself and protect yourself from that disappointment? Because it really is. It's a defense mechanism. I know that that's something that shows up for me. I don't want to hold on to something with my entire heart, because I just, I want to armor it a little bit. So disappointment, and preparing yourself from disappointment just based on those early experiences, it's an armor in the way that we show up in the world. And disappointment is also a way of, if we express our disappointment with someone, have you ever had your parents tell you, it's like, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed? And how much harsher that is. It really, gets you, it hooks you in, because it means that, you just haven't lived up to an expectation. And there's, where I've talked about anger having action to it, disappointment there's a weakness in it. It just, in your system, if you think about how you feel disappointment in your body, there's no fire to it. It's almost like pouring water on the fire, if that makes any sense. All right, I see that I've got some folks here. Thanks, Jen. I'm glad that this is resonating. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to check them out. But if not, I think that that's what I have to say, right? So, to recap, the disappointment, that groove of disappointment gets planted pretty early on. We start to create the expectation of disappointment, and it's an armor to protect us from, something else like anger or grief. It's like a damp blanket. So I want to wish everyone a great weekend. Thanks for hopping on. If you find these helpful, just let me know if there are subjects that you want me to cover in here or in the weeks of posting. Please pop it into the chat down below, and I definitely pay attention to those and factor that into what I'm creating for future weeks. And I've got a whole blog on disappointment. If you haven't seen that yet, I think I posted it in the group. If you're not a member of the group and you're seeing this on another platform, this is a Facebook group, and you can just ping me and I can send you the link for it. And if you want to head over to jessicadawncoaching.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, because there's lots of tidbits in there too. And I will catch you next week. Next week will be a recording, so you can watch it any time, just because I have some other things to take care of. But, I'll make sure to pop everything in to respond to the questions that are showing up. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.